guys, and welcome back to another All Heart video. Today we are going to be talking all about movement, specifically how to set up different areas in your playroom or in your home in order to help develop your children's gross motor skills. I'm going to do my best to provide as many examples as possible, and I'm going to try to arrange them in age groups from the moment that they're just a few weeks old up until they are a couple of years old, because the sensitive period for movement actually does last from the moment that they're born till they're about 2.5, sometimes even 3 years old. Now, for those of you that don't know what a sensitive period is, it is just a point of time where your son or daughter is more inclined to want to learn specific skills. You want to make sure that when your son or daughter is in that sensitive period for movement, that you are, as best as you can, paying attention to those signs. So I get a lot of questions from parents asking me why their son or daughter is not focusing on the activities that they have set out for them. And the parents are more than often very, very frustrated with that, because I do know that it takes a lot of time to set up some of these activities. Not only that, but some of these activities do end up being a little bit more costly. So I ask them, well, what are your children interested in doing right now? And that is the question that I want you guys to ask yourselves. What are they doing as opposed to what are they not doing? Because oftentimes that is when you are able to notice the types of sensitive periods they are in. You'll notice that from the moment that your baby arrives, they have a very innate, almost a natural instinct to want to move around. And it's one of the reasons why they're kicking their feet back and forth, waving their arms, they're stretching. So you want to help foster all of these types of movements in order to help them develop and grow all of those gross motor skills that they are going to need as they continue to learn and grow. All of these initial movements are obviously, they're not coordinated yet and they're not purposeful. So one of the reasons why we want to include more purposeful activities is for them to be able to really focus on each of this particular gross motor skills as they develop. Even your pediatrician will recommend that during those first few weeks that you help your child improve and build upon those back and neck muscles by giving them a little bit of tummy time. Now, some babies are not going to like tummy time whatsoever, and as soon as you place them on the floor, they're going to start crying, and that is completely normal. It's not a very natural movement to lay them on their tummy. It is obviously a lot more natural for them to be laying on their back. So if your baby is not liking tummy time, then you can kind of help this by perhaps placing a small pillow underneath their chest and placing their arms over that little pillow so that it kind of props them up a little bit. Or they'll still get that same sort of workout if you are holding your baby on your chest. And if you speak to them, they are very naturally inclined to want to turn their head in the direction of your voice. So that's also going to help strengthen those neck muscles. And soon enough, they'll be able to do it on their own. And you'll see that they're going to start enjoying their tummy time a lot more. Once they hit that milestone, quickly soon after, they are going to start rolling. And this will be from like their back to their tummy or their tummy to their back, back and forth. And I mean, this happens so quickly. So you want to make sure that when they are practicing all of this movement, that they do have sort of a free space, a safe space where they are able to basically explore all of these movements. I would definitely suggest laying like a small padded blanket, or they even have like these little foam padding rugs, and this is something that I included in our playroom for my daughter and my son, and this will make it a lot easier for them to be able to more comfortably move around. Another way to encourage movement in infants is to set up different activities on their Playmobile. So you are going to start with the Minari Mobile first, and that's sort of going to engage their visual senses. But as they start to get just a little bit older, then you can prop up like a small ball that is hanging from the mobile, and they can kind of swat at it back and forth. Eventually you'll move on to placing like a ring so that they can grasp onto it. And you can even place the little ball closer to their feet so that they can kind of kick it back and forth, and they can see the reaction and the consequence of kind of pushing this ball with their feet or their hands. So it really is just the cutest thing to watch. So once they've hit that milestone, then they are very quickly, once again, going to start sitting up. And once they are, you can present more activities like different objects that they can perhaps want to chase around. So like a ball or a moving little car. We actually have this little wheeled horse, and I believe it is a Grimm's horse, and I'll post a picture up here. But we presented this to my daughter just before she was able to crawl, and she, as soon as she was sitting up, she would like to kind of wheel it back and forth, and this would kind of incline her to want to kind of lean forward, and eventually she was able to crawl and kind of push it forward. So giving them toys that they are going to want to chase, like a ball or a car or like this wheeled horse that I mentioned earlier, are going to really promote that type of engagement. So once they're sitting up, then they are crawling. And once they are crawling, then they are definitely going to want to start climbing onto furniture. So it's not even that you have to provide them with certain specific toys or furniture just for them in order to climb, but even if you have, low shelving, like a Montessori specific shelving, they do have one that is just one level, and this is perfect for your child to be able to kind of explore that climbing, to be able to stand up, to strengthen those leg muscles, to strengthen their little arm muscles as they're pulling themselves up. They're going to be scooting around the sofa, scooting around any of your coffee tables as they start to gain a little bit more confidence in order to start taking their initial steps. Once I saw that my daughter was already standing up and really wanting to walk, and one of the things that I provided for my daughter was like this little wheeled wagon. So I actually had to put some weights in here so that it wouldn't tip back, because as they start kind of lifting themselves up, they are placing all of their weight on there. So I wanted to make sure that it was nice and safe. She was able to start taking her first steps, and from there she was able to gain that strength in her little leg muscles in order to take her first steps freely. Now, when my daughter reached the age of 1 and she was basically wanting to climb on all of the furniture, I did introduce a Pikler Triangle. And I will get to that in just a minute, and I will show you the one that we have. But let's say you don't have the budget for a Pikler Triangle, because I do know that they can be a little bit pricey, or perhaps you just don't have the space for it. Then if you are lucky enough to live in a 2-story home, then have your baby climb up and down the stairs. Obviously make sure that you are there, that you are vigilant, that you are watching this activity take place. But this is very good in helping develop all of those coordinations with their arms and their legs, and it is going to help them strengthen all of those little muscles that are going to be required later on when they eventually learn to stand up and they eventually learn to take those first steps. Now, I know that some parents like to place their child inside of an enclosed playpen, and this is more than likely just to keep them safe, to keep them out of trouble, especially if you haven't had a chance to baby-proof your home. My only suggestion with that would be to kind of limit the time that they are in the playroom in order for them to really be able to explore all of these gross motor skills freely, because it is a bit of a restriction for them if they are in an enclosed space. So as much as you can, if you are able to, just lay out a blanket on the floor so that they have somewhere safe and comfortable to be able to crawl on, to be able to move around on, and make sure that you have kind of baby-proofed, even if it's just one small room at first. It's so important in order to help in that development of their gross motor skills. So you do want to try to kind of limit the amount of time that they're in the playpen. So since we're still talking about babies that are just learning to sit upright, crawl, and kind of stand up, perhaps introducing a play tunnel will be something that they are going to enjoy. My children absolutely love the play tunnel that we got them. My son is very into anything that has to do with astronauts and the solar system. So I ended up getting him a play tunnel that was space inspired. So this is perfect because not only can I push it back together and just stick it in the closet when I don't want it out and about, but it is in fact very long and it's very, very engaging. My daughter loved to be able to crawl inside of this when she was just learning how to crawl. So it just gives them a different type of atmospheres. It gives them this kind of nice closed enclosure, like a little cave. And there are areas where they can kind of see through the mesh area. So it's like a little peekaboo game that you can play with them. So again, it is a lot of fun. It's not very expensive. You could find this in all sorts of colors. There's some that are like rainbow tunnels. There are some other ones that have just different themes. So just pick the one that's going to kind of inspire your little one to go and play through it. But these are a lot of fun. And like I said, if you are living in a space that has a limited amount of space, then this might be the perfect option for you. Once your baby is crawling and they are learning to take their first steps, like I said, introducing that little wagon or perhaps a push cart. So this is the one that I introduced to my daughter and she absolutely loves this thing, and it just kind of helps coordinate their little arms along with their legs as they're pushing themselves back and forth across the room. From there, you can slowly introduce like a balancing bike so that they're able to kind of push off and sort of coordinate their muscles. That way they're going to start learning how to balance themselves, and this is of course in preparation for them to actually learn how to ride a bicycle. Another fun thing that I introduced to my daughter when she was finally able to walk was something like this. And she just loved being able to push it back and forth. She loved being able to visually see all of the little colored balls sort of pop up and down. It was really reminiscent of like a vacuum. So anytime that I would vacuum, she would want to pull this around and pretend like she was vacuuming herself. Balls are another fun thing that you can introduce as early as, you know, just a month or two old, because they're able to kind of grasp it, especially the ones that are made out of cloth. Once they are sitting down, they're going to want to roll these balls. So it's something that they are going to want to grow with and play with and explore. And once they are crawling and once they are standing up, they are going to be able to throw the balls and they're going to be able to chase the balls. I would definitely suggest having a few different ones, especially the ones that perhaps have some sort of sensory element to them, like the fabric ones or the ones that have kind of the texture around, and I'll show you a few of the ones that we have. But those are just so much fun. So I know that with the current situation that we are all living in right now with this pandemic, we definitely staying indoors a lot more often. So perhaps you are not taking those nature walks that you used to. Perhaps you are not going to the corner playground that might be close to your house. And if you are not, then introducing like a small indoor slide will make absolute wonders for your children to be able to develop these gross motor skills as well. Because not only are they learning to climb, but they are also learning to coordinate their little legs to go over the little steps in order for them to be able to slide down. There are some that are a bit more like space saving so that you can fold up and again, you stick them somewhere so that they're not in the middle of your living room or something like that. But if you are still able to have a playground to go to, or if you have a playground in the space of your home, then I would definitely take them outside. Having them go outside is just such a wonderful and natural way for them to want to explore. Just having a breath of fresh air, being able to walk on the grass, being able to climb up the steps up to their slide, being able to sit on a swing and being able to kind of push back and forth with their legs. These are all wonderful ways of engaging those gross motor skills and also promoting that very much needed movement that they need. We actually do have a playground on our property, so they do have access to the stairs up to their little playhouse, and they have a slide. They've got 2 slides on there. And then we do have like a sand pit so that they're able to play in the sand. And then their grandparents got them a covered trampoline. So they do a lot of jumping in that thing, especially in the summer. So let's get back to talking about that Pikler Triangle. Now, this is something that some Montessori groups and parents, families, homes do introduce in their space, but it is not Montessori. So just kind of keep that in mind when you are getting one, especially if you want to stay more towards the traditional route of Montessori. The Pikler Triangle is not a Montessori tool. However, it is very, very good in promoting those climbing motor skills. So if you do have a little climber, I would definitely suggest it because it is a safe way for them to be able to learn to climb. It's a safe way for them to be able to help improve that coordination with their legs and their arms. It's going to provide a lot of strengthening and toning for those different muscle groups. And it is also going to promote a lot of engagement and enjoyment. Now, along with that Pikler Triangle, we also do have like a rainbow balance board. And let me go ahead and show you that because this is one of my children's favorites, and they can use it to either climb inside and sort of rock back and forth, and they really do use a lot of their momentum, and they learn how to coordinate themselves in order to make it kind of rock back and forth. And they could also turn it upside down so that they can climb over it almost like a little bridge or like a little rainbow. And they can climb it, they can sit on it, they can build a tunnel under it. And the same thing goes with your Pikler Triangle. These are both very versatile tools. They can really use their imagination with both of these things. And with the Pikler Triangle, I know that I've shown you in the past that my son likes to place all of his play silks on top, and then it creates a bit of a fort so that they are kind of hiding underneath. My son pretends that he's camping. And the same thing goes with our rainbow balance board. So again, if you have the space for it, if you have the funds for it, these are beautiful pieces of basically furniture that we keep on our playroom at all times. So another smaller option of a balancing board is something like this. So right now on this side, my son has some of his little road tape, so he uses it when he's playing like with his cars as a little bit of a bridge. So that's what he has on right now, but normally this is just completely plain. But again, this is something that they can stand on, they can sit on it. If they're reading, they can kind of wobble back and forth, they can stand on top of it and again wobble back and forth to gain that coordination and balance. And again, this is so versatile. They can use it for so many things. My daughter even uses it to place her dollies and kind of rock them back and forth as she's putting them to sleep. You can also prop this up on a chair so that your child actually climbs on top of the chair and then uses the balance board as a slide. So again, this is another way of being able to promote that climbing coordination and also giving them something to do by sliding down it. And again, this is something that can be tucked away or, left out on display so that they can utilize it in different ways. So whichever way that their imagination takes them, this is definitely a very versatile little tool. Another thing that we have are these river stepping stones. And I was happy enough to find these in neutral colors because I don't mind if they are out in the living room and they're playing around, and we bring this into the playroom as well. So these are very good for them to kind of travel with. And I love the fact that you are able to stack them up when you're putting them away, and you can just kind of put them in a corner. You could put them in a large basket and they could take them out when they want to use it. But again, such a wonderful way for them to be able to release some of that energy that they have It is perfect for helping with their coordination and balance. My daughter has already improved so much with her coordination and balance. It really does appear like different stepping stones that you would find if you were crossing a river. So this is just such a fun and wonderful way for them to be able to, again, work on developing those gross motor skills. Another thing that kind of falls in line with the stepping stones is just having like a balance beam. And this is something that you could easily DIY with just a few 2x4s. If you are handy yourself, or if your husband is very handy, then it should be simple enough to be able to build something like that. So let's talk about other ways that you're able to engage this development of gross motor skills. I actually keep a small basket in our playroom, and it's got a few different activities. So one of which is just a jump rope, and my son got this for Christmas this year, and it's got some wooden bunnies as their handles, and this is really, really well made. And the size of the jump rope is adjustable, so it's going to grow with your child. So my son is having a blast just learning how to kind of coordinate his arms and his legs. If your son or daughter is kind of struggling with coordinating those muscles, then a jump rope may be the way to go. And again, I can just tuck it in a basket, and it's always out for my children to be able to use when they need a bit of a break from working on an activity. And that's one of the reasons why Maria Montessori wanted to include movement in her curriculum. I know that in one of my videos, I included the 5 different areas that you wanted to include in a playroom, and movement is definitely one of them. And there are proven studies that show that children concentrate and focus more on their activities if they are given time to be able to move about freely. So another way that you're able to provide this movement and engagement is just by setting things apart inside of your playroom. So let me give you an example. When we are working on geography, I will set different continent cards all over our playroom, and I will ask my son, can you find me the continent of Africa? Or can you bring me Australia? Or can you bring me North America? And he will have to actually stand up, go around the room, find the continent that I am asking for, and then he'll bring it back. But just giving him this little break of being able to move around really does help him focus more on the activities that we want him to work on. And it's going to really help improve his memory and his kind of retention. And he's going to be able to absorb all of this knowledge that we are trying to instill in our children. So another way is if you guys are working on language activities, perhaps giving them a bit of a scavenger hunt. Can you find me something that starts with the sound ah? And they would go around the room and find that. The same with all of the letters. It's not necessary for you to have all of the things that I mentioned in the video today. It is not necessary for you to have to spend so much money just to try and promote and foster this movement within your child. There are definitely activities that you can provide for your children in order to still help them develop all of these gross motor skills. Another thing that I love being able to set up for my children, and sometimes my son just sets it up himself, is an obstacle course. And this you can use just things that you have at home. We actually have these small little cones, and we kind of set them around the room. We also use his Grimm's Rainbow that he can kind of hop over or scoot around, and we'll set them all about the room. And now we even use his river stepping stones. So when we are playing The Floor is Lava, then he can kind of step from stone to stone until he reaches that safe zone that we've created for him. Another thing that we have is a hopscotch mat or rug. So this, again, I just keep inside of that little basket alongside his jump rope. He'll hop around all of the different little numbers. When the weather permits, also allowing them to play with bubbles outside. You know, a lot of times we get some of the bubbles with the bigger ones, and my daughter is just spinning around and running around and having the bubbles kind of trail after her. So something as simple as that, it's something that you could find at the Dollar Tree or at Target. but especially during the spring when you guys are doing your Easter baskets, definitely include some bubbles, because again, this is a fun activity and a fun way in order to promote that movement as well. And the last thing that I'm going to mention is music and providing musical instruments. There's a reason why Maria Montessori included music and movement in conjunction together. And that is because whenever they do their circle time, they do have the children engage with different instruments. They do have them learn different types of cultures and instruments within those cultures. They explore movement. They explore what types of instruments do and how they sound. And so again, this is going to help foster that love of movement and music as one. And that's it, you guys. I hope that I've given you plenty of examples. If you happen to have more questions for me, please leave them in the comments below. As I mentioned in every video, I am more than happy to answer any of your questions. And if you guys have even longer questions, or perhaps questions not related to this video, go ahead and message me personally. I do leave my Gmail account in the description box if you guys want to message me. Again, I am more than happy to answer questions that way as well. If you enjoyed this video, if you learned from it and you found it useful, make sure to like it, make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and make sure to ring that notification bell so that you are notified of when I next post a video. And one final thing, if you did love this video, make sure to share it with a friend. I'm sure it'll be just as helpful to them as it was for you. So thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you guys very, very soon. Bye. Thank you.